This is Enemy at the Gate, and
Not to be confused with the movie.
the classic, awesome, incredibly not true movie.
Hey, you know what?
That if you couldn't figure that out, you deserve to be had.
Hey, Bob Hoskins playing a Russian. You lay off.
Do you know any heroes? Sorry, it's
He was the most authentic Russian I've ever seen since
Sean Connery in Hunt for October. All right. This episode we got. God, what is it going on? Korra's returning. Bolin's opening up about General Zelda. General Zelda.
Isengard has marched on
Pretty
Gondor
much,
or something.
yeah. As soon as this giant army is in front of, like, the center of the Earth Kingdom, I was like, "You will taste man flesh!" And just kind of at a stalemate right now. They're just waiting to see who's going to make the first move, and Korra goes in to try and negotiate. General Zelda says, "All right, I will hold off the attack if you can talk to I forget her name, the current owner of that kingdom." But it turns out they're gonna do their own attack. It looks like, and it's gonna most likely fuck everything up if Zelda's not already planning something, which she probably already is. And Varric and Julie have a lot of time in this one, which is great.
Aunt May is sick, and the prom's tonight.
Julie apparently is going back to General Zelda. I don't know.
What's the most, I think, obvious, like, she's just gonna be a mole.
Yeah, no, that's my thought too. Though I like how they set it up with her. It'd be hilarious if we were totally wrong.
Guards, do that thing.
Not the thing! But I like how they set it up in that, like, he has the, thanks, Julie, blah, blah, blah. So, the only thing I mean,
if I were 10, maybe I'd be, like, questioning whether, but I mean, as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I think this is...
Yeah, oh yeah. And,
I mean, I would be surprised if she really does betray Varric to the point that she's a bad guy at the end of this, literally, but...
They're, and then, I'm forgetting her name, Red Shirt. What's her name? The father in jail and everything. Her father looks like Miyazaki. Asami is...
They jailed Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah.
I was laughing. I'm like, that's totally Miyazaki.
This is for the creepy cat bus that scared so many children. And there's even a... it's so funny, those scenes where she's trying to come to grips with her father, I'm like... This doesn't seem to connect too much to the story, but I'm like, I'm really invested. I'm just like,
every time
they
probably should have been scenes that were back in like season 2 or 3, but
but they're good.
We won't
scenes.
start that again. But yeah, I mean I can't think of a single. Pretty much all of these episodes so far have been better than the first 3 seasons put together. I've now hit that point where I'm like, I'm way more invested in these first. What are we on, episode 5 now?
Something like that.
Yeah, first 5 episodes of this than in any of the seasons.
I am, like, really blown away by how good this season is.
Yeah,
I mean, everything, it's all building up, but it's not to a point kind of like the last season where it's like, okay, everything's just going to be on sort of the payoff, and it turns out that was a continuation, but, I mean, it's like, because you're seeing stuff happening, and they're good debates, and they're good dialogues, and just seeing that army out there, I mean, you just feel that tension.
It's
like,
turned into, like,
man.
Lord of the Rings all of a sudden.
It really
like,
kind of has.
It's really tense.
But I'd argue sort of Lord of the Rings, but, like, a little bit more politics in it. I mean, not that Lord of the Rings didn't have talking in it, it definitely did, but a little bit more like, let's come to an agreement.
Well, Lord of the Rings plus politics is just Dune, then.
Yeah, or like Game of Thrones. Well, Game of Thrones says really waits for the action, but...
We need more boobies.
But, yeah, and... I'm just really blown away by how good this season is. I think this was the first time, even though I like Korra fine, this was the first time in an episode where when it cut to the credits, I was like, no! Like, I really want to see more!
Oh, see, I've been thinking that since literally it started. Since episode 1, every time it cuts to the credits, I'm like, damn it! No, where's the rest of it?
No, but I was like...
Last time, maybe not as much, because it was a little bit of a fluffier episode, but
yeah, well,
every other episode, I've been like,
ugh. Well, I think you were telling me too going in. You're just like, yeah, this one, like, because you saw it before me, like, it doesn't let up, and
no, it doesn't.
There's a few good moments, I guess, of comedy with Varric, which and all that is great, yeah, and Julie.
But
and
even
all
the
that
comedy
stuff,
comes
great.
Laced with this darkness. Yeah, the Varric moment was funny where he blows up the spirit vine, but it ends with General Zelda strangling him over the train tracks.
No, even what's he doing? He's creating this awful weapon. And actually, I like to say...
Don't listen to the voice heads, or to the head voices.
In your head.
Yeah.
What voices are liars? I also like the idea that there's always sort of this thing in, I don't know, anything that talks about spirits or energy and stuff like that. That's like, well, you can't measure it. It's just spirits. I like the fact that they're bringing technology into it. I like the fact he's trying to measure it. He's trying to almost, contain it if it can be contained. He's trying to figure it out.
No, and I mean,
like it makes sense. That's something he would do.
Nerds absolutely love it when you mix spirituality and technology. I mean, the midichlorians went over great.
Yeah, so right? I mean, everybody loved that. But you know what I mean? Like,
I'm fine with it in this because it seemed to be kind of introduced gradually, whereas Star Wars is like magically mentioned midichlorians.
Yeah,
all of a sudden, like I'm like, where was that before? At no point, whatever.
Well, and this world, like I said, or like we said, very much is. It's like the technology boom has come, and Republic City, all that stuff. It's like technology plays a really big part
in
this world. So
that,
you can see them just continuing to go, and like, what else can we figure out? What else can we discover?
And Asami's done her part, they were mentioning in the backstory, to build basically an infrastructure so the city can function with the spirit world. So there's this idea that the two are kind of combined. I'm amazed that as sloppy, in my opinion, as some of the exposition is with, like, just mentioning, and Asami's helped rebuild the city's infrastructure to make it match the spirit world, and, like, I'm just like, we never really showed us any of that. Like, there's a lot of things that they didn't show and they just sort of tell, and yet I'm kind of amazed it works as well as it does.
Yeah.
Like, there are moments that I'm just like, this would piss me off on almost any other show, but they've managed to somehow pull this off.
I think it's because you're so invested in the other stuff going on, and they have so much detail about that. And I mean, like I said, this battle being built up and those armies set up, but, like, nothing much has really happened if you look at it. I mean, she's declaring, I'm going to take over everything, and... yeah, she's taken over a lot of towns, but even then, it's like in terms of like big Lord of the Rings style battles and all these armies going and stuff. It's like we haven't really seen anything. The
diplomacy. The funny thing is, I mean, now Kuvira's outed herself as a bad guy, straight up. But still, the amount of restraint and diplomacy in trying to work the different sides to get her aims through politics, like Korra, why don't you talk to her? No, we have to use Bolin to project, an offer
she's actually like a smart politician.
It would have been easy just to be like, and march straight over.
But I love that.
But she's a clever politician. Yeah, no, you don't. And you still always, it's like, even now I kind of have those moments, even though I've seen her gone batshit nuts, where I'm still like, well, I mean, she's trying. I mean, look, maybe you should just join it. And then I'm just like, no, wait, she's crazy. But
I mean, again, that's a great villain. And I love, I was going to mention, too, the way she's, the expressions on her face, I mean, they're just the perfect, I think a lot of people feel when I want to look tough, I show no emotion, and you just look dead. But there is...
This was
even that there's a balance, even just a little bit of that eyebrow and a little bit of a nod and a look to the left or right. I mean, it's like those little touches do a lot. Not just for animation, just for acting in general.
Well, this is a very expressive episode. The scene with Asami and her father, any of the scenes with Korra, any of the, I was noticing the facial expressions in this one, and then with Julie, if you read her face when she's talking, it's this interesting mix of, I think you can almost tell that maybe she's bluffing a bit, but she's also legitimately pissed, because, I mean, she's been getting crapped on the whole series.
Well, particularly this episode, I think.
And her facial reads when she was angry and being like, no, spare me, take him, I hate him, I want to join you, you're the smart one, the look on her face, the animation is just great. And it's been that way this whole episode.
I also like, if I had to nitpick one thing, it's a real nitpick. I was going to say the actual suits, the metal suits, they look a little red versus blue. To me, their movement's a little...
You mean that's CGI? No.
But I mean, where before they seemed to move pretty, you felt the weight. This one, they kind of move like video game characters, well, I think we should go there, which is... it's played up a touch for comedy at
feel
first,
like I'm playing,
and they are robots.
I feel like I'm playing an old game of Command and Conquer or something from
but it still looks
90s.
A little like they maybe move a touch too fast or something. But it's animation. I mean, like, everything else
Honestly,
in this
the rest
series
of the
has
layout,
blown me away.
the rest
I mean,
of the
it's a
character
real
work.
nitpick.
The rest of the character work and the background design and everything has been so incredible this season. Yeah, I don't care. I'm like, you know what? I'll put up with a little bit of CGI overlaying a gorgeous backdrop versus the whole thing just looks cheap. So.
I mean, there's a scene where, you know, someone's sitting down and the camera just, like, you know, pans to the right a little bit, and it's like, animation, all you have to do is have the painted background, the person there, and it moves with the background, that's it. But it's like they CG just this little tiny bench or something to, like, move with it, but it looks painted into the background. It's like not even a second long, and it's like, man, they're throwing so much effort just in the smallest things. So it's so impressive how much they put into this.
I gotta say this too. Redemption for Bolin. Big time. That fight, you know, the whole peace negotiation process, it was typical goofy Bolin. Like, whoa, can't we all just get in a circle, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya? You know, but when he realizes, so Doug in the middle of it, when Kuvira's like, well, they're my loyal subjects, Bolin. We had to send them to education camps. I mean, wait, are you disloyal? Like, what are you doing? Like, maybe I shouldn't have trusted you at all. Maybe you need to be sent to a re-education camp. And Bolin's like, no, I totally believe in you, you know. Yes, sir, you know. And she stares at him, and Doug's like, oh, see, it should have just jump cut to him going, she's crazy.
I just had to wait a little bit.
Yeah, and then what happens 5 minutes later, he beats up with Varric and just, she's crazy.
No, which worked because it's like, if you don't do that, you had to have another joke, and having him and Varric say it at the exact same time, I thought was pretty.
Well, wait, how do you know she's crazy? How do you know?
Yeah.
So, Bolin helping them escape, and then that fight was real redemption. Like, I took Bolin seriously. He fucking kicked ass. Mm-hmm. You know, and really the only misstep was Varric himself getting caught through his own incompetence, and that was the one moment there where I lost a little, because when the three of them show up then in Kuvira's office, I was like, really? Really, guys? You couldn't have found a way out of that? Like,
well, two things come to mind. One is that, you know, he does have his head. I mean, the machine one could just be like, no more Varric. But the other thing that comes to my head is that they probably wouldn't have killed him because they need him for the weapon. I'm wondering if Julie knew that, which is why I'm wondering if even more this is a plant. You know, like maybe he wanted them to get captured and separate.
I don't think it could be. I'm not sure Bolin's on that though. And
no, I don't think
Bolin would have been clever enough considering the pretty badass earthbending he was doing.
Like,
it was
he was
probably the best.
Leave that way and that way.
It was the best Bolin fight because it was Bolin clearly on his own. He was getting very little help from Varric, and Julie was occupied with the other guy. So he really was kicking major ass. I'm like, finally, he gets this moment to shine, and then it ends with, you know, Varric getting caught. I'm like, oh. Like, so I hope he's got another moment before the show's over, because I was like, this is the Bolin I've kind of wanted to see for a while, where he's like, all right, it's fucking on.
Well, he's always been a pretty good fighter. I mean,
he's always a pretty good fighter, but he's always had, like, help. Mako's there, usually. This is one of the first times I was like, oh,
Julie was doing a good chunk of work.
Yeah.
She was doing most of the work, actually.
No, they both were doing the work, but Julie's not a bender. I'm talking about just pure bending.
Oh, bending-wise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bolin's always had help from Korra and Mako, and like, this was a moment where, as a bender alone, I thought Bolin really got to shine. So it was kind of a shame that it ended, like, on that low note of, like, and then into the office. But I'll tell you, the way they've written God Emperor, now Zelda's role, like, she is seriously intimidating. Like, when she's like, you're going to a re-education camp, I'm like, shit. Like, I'm kind of really scared for Bolin. I'm like, is he going to come out like Manchurian Candidate, like, all hail our new glorious leader? Like,
I think this villain honestly might even be better than Amon. Honestly,
I agree.
Originally, I was kind of on the fence,
Amon,
like, no,
Amon
there's
was
just so much
threatening,
more to it.
and he had mystery to him, but, I mean, there's way more depth to this villain.
Yeah, no, this is like a really
and Amon had a small
identifiable
revolution.
villain.
Yeah, Amon had a small revolution. This woman's got an army.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not like a little startup thing. This is like, oh, she pretty much runs their equivalent of Asia.
Well, and I think what makes the villain even more interesting is so many times we've seen villains, especially in cartoon shows and kid shows, where they have a giant army and they're like, you know, just kill them all. I mean, even down to, like, Saruman, who's not a bad villain, but it's like, you know, to war, now you will go and we will dig them up. They're very basic, and like I said, what you said, the diplomacy that she tries, and just the true belief in what she's doing, but there's just still this coldness and still this harshness that it's like, no, there is no other way, and you do see her born as well when they have that conversation in the flashback. It's just, I mean, it's almost like a Shakespearean villain. It's just a good villain.
It reminds me of something Nicholas Meyer was saying in the commentary for Star Trek II. I guess he was having trouble getting Ricardo Montalban to act like he wanted to in Khan's initial scenes. In the first scenes, he's like, I mean, it was Ricardo Montalban, he was good, but it was a little too shouty, over the top, when he was like talking to Chekhov or whatever for the first time, and he like went up to him, and Nicholas Meyer apparently said, like, the secret to really, truly crazy people is they don't need to shout, except when they only really, really need to. Otherwise, they're so intimidating and so crazy, you just don't need to do it. And that's what Kuvira's like. The moment where she held Varric over the train tracks, or when she, really goes up to Bolin and starts questioning his loyalty, is scary because she's not like that normally. So there's this craziness that's underneath 24/7, and then when it comes out, you're just like, oh, now we've gone from crazy to really crazy.
But you also see how it comes, how she comes to that, because she just keeps so much of it like, no, I got Empire, I don't have time for this. Oh, you want to start? You want that? Okay, I'm just going to hold you over that. Are you going to come? I can drive. Okay, good. It's like, it's just part of the schedule,
It's so casual, too.
Well, she's got a lot of things on her mind,
Maybe I should just drop it off the tracks. How's that? It's very like Stalinist. Like, you could just see Stalin doing something like that. Oh, you didn't like the portrait of me? Or you didn't paint a right portrait of me? To the gulags, away with you. What's next? It's just so casual.
The busy person's got a world to create, an empire.
That's crazy.
And stuff. Yeah,
and that's
it
what's
is,
so scary about it. It's just like, that's underneath there, just seething 24/7, and then occasionally it just comes out in that moment of just like, oh, yeah, no, you've served me well, but to the re-education camp.
Yeah, and you see how she's successful, which, again, I think is so important in a show, especially something that's on, like, a kid's channel, that's like, oh, they're just bad, and, oh, well, why didn't we see this bad person? That person's clearly bad. And here it's like, no, you really see how people warmed up to her and how they can choose a side, and it really makes sense. I think that's such an important thing to understand, especially when not just, the characters see it, but, I mean, like, the world sees it, and how could anyone fall for such an obvious maniac or something? But they really show it, and they really show the progression, and it does happen in real life, and everyone's just like, oh, couldn't anyone, just Hitler's a bad guy, couldn't they see that with Hitler and stuff? And there was this progression, there was this really brilliant, intelligent,
he did make the highways work.
Yeah, I mean,
the trains ran on time, so
there you go.
That's what most people are concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, the other taboo stuff. I mean, Hitler is very underrated. I just wanted to say the line Hitler was underrated.
You can go on record saying that.
No. I just wanted to have a vlog where I say Hitler's underrated.
Please send all angry emails, care of Doug at thatguywiththeglasses.com.
I make a Hitler joke in this Dodger Critic this week, too. So it's been a Hitler week. I've had to look at a picture of Hitler and putting a cookie on his face. So just... strange Hitler imagery is in my mind recently. As Mel Brooks said, Hitler's a funny guy. So,
wow.
On that note, I've outed myself as a Nazi, and I can't wait for the next episode when the hero Zelda, General Zelda, is going to win the day. God Empress Adolf Zelda.
All right, Gables.
Ha!